Welcome to Doxon Photography and welcome to the Canon EF 20mm f2.8 lens review. I'm starting off the video by filming myself with that lens so you can see actually the angle, and I'm shooting it wide open at f2.8 so you can see the look and the effect. So an f2.8 lens is a wide open aperture lens, but on a wide angle or super wide angle lens you might not get that blurry background that much. The closer you are, the more blurry the background will be. So now you see there is blurry background there, but the longer I hold my arm, the more clearer the background will be. But I thought let's start off the video just by showing you exactly how this lens could work as a vlogging lens. So this is the 20mm f2.8 EF lens, which was created in the 90s, and it's a lens that's out there now for nearly 30 years, or over 20 years. And I never really heard much about it. There are some Canon lenses like the 50mm macro lens and the 20mm f2.8 lens that are cheap and I never heard of, and I always wondered why. Are they so bad, or is there another reason? And when you think about wide angle and super wide angle lenses, there's always the 17 to 40mm zoom lens and the 16 to 35mm zoom lenses f2.8. Version 1, version 2 and now version 3, and these are common in the photography world and widely used in everybody who photographs landscapes or architecture or interior design, interior photography. They probably use a wide angle, super wide angle lens, and I usually use my 24mm wide angle lens, and I came here to Spain for 2 weeks and my lens broke down just before the trip and I needed a wide angle lens. I wanted a wide angle lens. So it was the perfect time for me to pick up this €250 cheap lens, which I found on eBay. There are a couple of lenses out there on eBay very cheap for €200, €300, so it's not really that expensive, and I know I can sell these. I can sell the lens for actually the same price as I bought it, or maybe 20-30 euros less, but still have the joy of using it now for 2 weeks. And let's take a look at what we can do with it. Now, as you see now, it really works well as a vlogging lens. I don't have the image stabilizer on of the camera. The camera has the image stabilizer digital that crops into the image. I thought, let's not do this. Let's just show you the view of the angle that you have with this lens, and I think it's a really perfect lens. It's much better than a 35mm lens or a 24mm lens, and the beauty of it is it's much lighter than the zoom lenses like the 16 to 35, which is the reason I bought it. I'm not interested in zoom lenses and I don't want heavy lenses, so one of the reasons I bought this lens was because it's f2.8, it's 20mm, it's super light, it's small, and it's cheap, €250. So now let's switch from the selfie mode to holding actually the lens so you can actually see how that lens looks like, because probably you usually don't see it in a camera store. So I have two cameras with me. It's the Canon 5DSR that I'm holding in my hands. It's a 50-megapixel camera, and I shot most of the landscape shots with that camera. And I have the Canon EOS RP that's filming now, which is a 26 megapixel camera. And I use the lens on both of them. So first of all, let's take a look at the landscape shots. Now, I also had an ND filter, an ND1000 filter, and so the images that you see where the water is blurry, that is images that I used the ND filter for. So it's an ND1000 filter which lets you blur out everything and capture the movement beautifully. And I took some images with the ND filter and without it, and so let's take a look at these images. Now in this video I'm not really judging the sharpness and the quality of the lens in terms of technical perfection. That we will do after this video when I'm back in Germany, looking at all the images in Lightroom on a big screen, and I take you with me so we can take a look at these images together on the big screen, how they hold up against my expectations in terms of image quality. Now, there are different criteria when thinking about buying a lens. For me, personally, I want a lens that is not so heavy. So this is a really beautiful lens. And also I bought it just, I could say, as a fun lens, because I'm here in Spain for 2 weeks and I wanted something in a wide angle area as my 24mm lens broke down. So I bought this lens for 250 euros, so the price is beautiful. 250 euros is not so much, and I can sell it for the same price if I come back to Germany and if I say I don't like it, I don't need it, or I keep it. And I also want a lens that is different in terms of focal length. It doesn't really make sense to buy a 35mm lens and a 40mm lens because there's only 5mm difference. I like having a 135mm lens, which I have now here, a 50mm lens that I brought here, and a 20mm. So it's 20, 50, 135. Super wide, standard telephoto. And it doesn't make sense for me to bring it 35 and 50 because they are too close. The images look the difference is not so big. So I wanted something that's different in focal length. Now, talking about technical specification. Now this is an f2.8 lens, which I think is great, but you also get vignetting. You probably cannot see it from the video that I just filmed like this. You probably don't see the vignette, but there is vignette. In the photos you definitely see it, f2.8. And in the photography world you can actually get the vignetting go away in Lightroom easily, but you can't get it away in video. So if you want to do a lot of video, vignetting might be a problem if you want to use it at f2.8. Also, corner sharpness might be a thing, but we will take a look at that when we go into Lightroom. For me, the most important thing is the feeling. How does the lens feel? And it's really great like this, even holding it with my arm stretch. It's a lightweight lens, and I can film myself easily or take pictures of me and my girlfriend like this. Because it's 20mm, I can get nice images of me and my girlfriend together with her in my arm, which I cannot do with a 35mm lens or more telephoto. So, talking about photographing people, we've now taken a look at the landscape shots, and we will look at them on a deeper technical level in Lightroom later, so you see how I edited them. Now let's take a look at people photography. I love photographing people. It's my passion, it's my job, it's my hobby, it's what I love to do. When I have no one to photograph, I just photograph myself. That is what I did with the Eos RP that's filming now. The camera has Iaf and Great Autofocus, so I'm always in focus actually, no matter where I stand, either photo or video mode. So I put the lens on the RP, put the remote control on it, which looks like this. One on the camera, one in my hand. When I push the button, the camera takes a picture. So let's take a look at the images now. Now what I was expecting, when you think about photographing people and you have a super wide angle lens, usually people don't like to use that. People tend to go for a 85mm telephoto lens to get a beautiful look. I've actually now experienced that you can use any focal length and any lens that you have to take creative portraits, and I just did that with myself. So let's take a look at the videos, how I photographed myself, so you see how close was I to the camera and the lens. So you see from which distance I took the images, and then we take a look at the images.
Me tomo mis 12 uvas Nos acostamos tempranito, tú sabes lo que hacemos, a otro día a medirnos por ahí a tomar copa y ahora nos tomamos de copa. Porque nosotros no tomamos copa y ahora nos cuesta un sitio que cuesta 80 euros para beber una Coca-Cola o beber un jerky. ¿Tú sabes lo que hacemos? Que nos vamos por ahí a comer y hacemos una ruta. También está muy bonito eso. El año nuevo nos vamos por ahí, vamos a Tierra de Malo, vamos para allá, o vamos a la Antifarra, comemos carne a la granja y lo que pasa es que había por tomar algo. Bueno, pues estamos sentados los cuatro. Mira, me voló un vaso y ya empezó los niños a tirar a la policía y todo, y yo no me tomaba esto. Te rebanean la cabeza y me vas a andar. Pero si no,
ahí la llevo todavía aquí. Ya, ¿viste? Da vuelta, ¿no?
Ya vaya a pasear, ¿no? Y yo tú mira ese gato, ¿no? No, oye, no es un gato. Sí, es un gato. No,
Now what I really have to say here, it's a lot of fun using this lens. You can stand very close and still get a lot of the background into the image. You don't have to get so far away, which is great when filming yourself or taking pictures of yourself, to not be so distant from the camera and lens. I really like that you don't really see that it's a super wide angle lens use. What I mean by that is when you use a super wide angle lens and maybe your face or your hands are at the edges of the frame, the forms can change. So your head is a little bit, it looks weird when you are at the edge of the frame. I didn't really find that with this 20mm lens to be an issue that much. And I think most images turn out really beautiful and you don't see the super wide angle look, which I think is great. It looks like a normal photo, a beautiful photo that where I can now actually be in the image myself as well and not just be behind the camera, as mostly I'm always behind the camera, come home from a trip like this and I'm on no image at all. So I thought the 20mm is a great way to do this. So it is a beautiful lens to photograph landscape. It's also a beautiful lens to do vlogging. It's cheap, it's lightweight, it's f2.8. At f2.8 it's not the sharpest. It has vignetting, strong vignetting. The sharpness at the corners are not great, but I can use it at f2.8 and I'll show you the images here at f2.8, and this is what you can get with this lens. It's 250 euros on eBay and this is my experience. I wanted to do a review about it because I have not heard much of it and I was always curious. This lens, I was always curious, and also the 50mm macro lens, I'm curious. I'm also looking into the 14mm 2.8, which is much more expensive, and the 200mm 2.8. They're probably, the next time I will be here, probably I have one of these lenses with me. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the review of the 20mm EF 2.8 wide angle lens or super wide angle lens. And if you like the video, take a look at my channel. You will find more videos about photography probably than on any other channel here on YouTube. And I do it with my heart, with passion, and I do it for people who are like me, who love photography. And I try to contribute a little bit to the photography community with this channel. Thank you very much.
So welcome to Dexon Photography, still in the Canon EF 20mm f2.8 lens review. We are now going into Lightroom to take a look at some of the images. I took all these images. We're going to take a look now with two different cameras. One camera was the Canon 5DSR and the other camera is the Canon EOS RP. The 5DSR mostly all the time. Unless I'm photographing myself, then I switch to the RP and a couple other occasions. And the beautiful thing about the 5DSR, it has 50 megapixel resolution, so we can zoom in pretty nicely. I'm now zoomed in at 400%. We can go to 100%. So you can really get some nice looks into images and image quality and really dive into what you captured. and enjoy the beautiful depth of image. But I thought it's nice to go into Lightroom just to take a little deeper look at the images and the kind of images. So some kind of images were landscape shots, which might be usually the nature here. Some images are with my son. Some images are with myself. And I also want to show you how I edit these images. If you wonder how do I edit these images, I can show you how I do it right here. Now, I have taken 11,000 images here and 4,500 images with the 20mm lens, and from these 4,500, 920 are now here in my selection. So here now 920 images taken with the 20mm f2.8 lens at different apertures. You always see up here in the corner the settings I use, which ISO, which f-stop, which shutter speed, 20mm, 2.8. Let's take a look at editing. So let's undo everything. This is the image straight from the camera. I straighten the horizon. And when I edit images, I have my preset pack here on the left. This is exactly the presets that you can get when you get my preset pack. And what I do is I just go through them, select a look that I like, click on it, and then make it brighter or darker. And then copy that look to all the other images. Now let's do it again. This is the unedited image, which looks pretty already. I can keep it like this. The 5 DSR has really a beautiful look. I really like how the images look. And then I can just click on any preset here. Maybe let's go to Dioptrien. And then I just have to make it brighter or darker and have the final image. Or I click on another preset, maybe Rouge by Dioptrien, and then I have my final look. Now I'm a big fan of easy, simple, out of flow, or doing things from flow, which means I take images pretty quickly and I edit them pretty quickly. This to me is now a finished image. I can use another preset. Click on Gringo. This is now a finished image. I can go to Natura. This is now a finished image. I can copy it to all the other images, and this is how quickly I edit. So let's undo everything here. This is now the image straight from the camera, which is nice already. I can now click on anything. Let's click on, let's use something else. Let's go to Heaven Up. And this is now the final image. Or I say I want something different. So let's go to maybe here, sepia vibe. If I want a older look, like it was from the 50s or 60s, now it's sepia. And this is the way how I edit images. I edited these images in sequences, and for every sequence I used a different preset. So here I use one preset, on the next sequence I use another preset, and you will see it in a moment what I mean by sequence. It's a really nice, here starts the next sequence. So let's go from here and go through these images. Here you see f2.8 wide open. You see a vignette, so the corner is darker than the center, which for me is no problem. I can always correct the images, so this now is corrected, everything is clean, everything is clear, there are no dark corners. But for me it's totally fine to have dark corners because it focuses the view onto my subject in the center of the image, which is Anna, who's standing here at the beach. Let's take a look at f9.0. So it's the same place, same image. Now at f9, let's zoom in. Let's go to 100. This is 100%. Let's zoom in, go to 4 to 1. This is now 400%, and you can really see how Anna is standing here on the beach. Now I'm not a big fan of technical perfection. I want images, I want a lens that works for me. That I like to use because of the images, not because of the sharpness in the edge of it. Again, this is unedited, f22. You see the corner here is darker than the center. If I correct now, changes a little bit here, but I don't really care about it. I'm not about technical photography, I'm about emotional photography. So I show you just a couple more times how I edit images. So this is unedited, it's 43 seconds long exposure. In the bulb mode, I click on Heaven Up and just straighten the horizon. Wrong button. Like this, and this is now done. If you wonder how I got a look like this, let's undo it. And let's straighten the horizon. I have 3 presets. One is Orange Bleu by Doxon. I click on it, and then I have this strange, crazy look, but it works really nice for landscapes. If you don't like the vignette, put it off, turn it away. And all the images you see now here in this sequence, I've edited with this preset. So let's choose this image. Let's undo it. Click on Orange Bleu. And now I have a little bit brighter, straighten the horizon. Let's put the vignette a little bit away, it's too strong. Now I have a beautiful look. It's a 30-second long time exposure. I think it's a nice image. You can print it pretty big. We have 8,000 and 5,000 pixel resolution, 50 megapixel. So I can print this pretty large, hang it on my wall, sell it in galleries, however I like it. And let's take a look at another image wide open. So this is now at f2.8, ISO 50, the lowest ISO, half a second. And you see how close you can get with the 50 megapixel EOS 5DSR. Here's the EOS RP with the 51.2. Here is another. I always bring some other cameras, can be analog cameras. I brought an analog camera plus 3 of these cameras that are you can use them one time, then send it to develop the film, and then it's actually you cannot use it again. But see how beautiful the blurry background is. We have our subject here, which are the 2 cameras, and you see so much of the background, but it's also blurry. You have a blurry background to have the focus on the people, or on the subject here, on the cameras, but you see where we are. It's not like taking with the 85mm lens where you have no idea about the background. Here you see the difference in shutter speed. I have here now 69 seconds in bulk mode. So here we have some more long time exposure photography. So here, for example, we have 69 seconds, f22, lowest ISO, ISO 50, to get really smooth water. If I take images with shorter time, like 3 seconds, you see much more of the water, or 1 second, you see the wind and the water, or 1/10 of a second. This is an image that you can take with any setting, so to say, and when you really go for a long time, this is how the image looks like, really smooth. You take the time and movement out of the image, and this you can do when you have a tripod and take long time exposure photography. So let's take a look at some more images. You see a different look here. I've used a different look to edit these images, and there is no real right or wrong when editing. It's just a personal style or what your clients like. I can totally understand if you say these images do not have anything to do with reality. This doesn't look real, which is totally fine. So let's undo everything and choose another preset. So let's, for example, let's take normal. So this looks pretty normal. Straighten the horizon. So this could be an image that looks pretty normal. If it is too warm, let's make it colder. So this can be normal. But I like it warm, and sometimes I like it a little bit different. So let's do something different. Maybe like this. Or like this. And I feel photography is very subjective. You can do a lot if you like. You can change a lot. These images, there is nobody who's waiting for these images. I took these images because I love taking pictures. And so I can be totally free in how I edit them. And I've tried to put a lot of different styles into the preset pack here. So you see, just by going over these images, you see the different look that you would get if I click now on that button. So Contra by Doxon is a black and white preset. I can copy it to the next images, synchronize everything. Now when I go through the next images, they will all be in the black and white that I've just used for the first image. And I just need to make small adjustments to get to the final look. So in my experience, the 20mm is a really overlooked lens. I mean, many people go for the 16 to 35 zoom lens, which is the common lens to use. And I feel I like small and lightweight, and I'm not so much a zoom shooter. It gives me too many options. So I like to have a prime lens. It's lightweight, it's small, it's cheap. It has f2.8 open aperture. So let me just edit one more image here, copy it to all the other images so you see how I create a series. And now these images will all be changed in the look to the look that I selected for the first image. We can do this now again. Let's go back to the first image and let's choose another style. Maybe Napoli. Make it a little stronger. Again, synchronize everything. Down here, everything will now change. So everything is now in the new, different look that I just selected. So it's very subjective. It's very easy to do here in Lightroom, just with a couple of clicks. And we can take a look at some more images here in the gallery. So you really get a feeling of the different looks that you can create with this lens. Even photographing kids, I mean, super wide angle lenses are not the first choice usually, but you can get really different perspectives when you photograph, for example, your kid from below the eye line. So your son looks like a giant, so to say. When you have the camera below the eye line, you look up to the person, you look up to the child, which makes the kid bigger, more powerful, and I think it's a really beautiful lens to play with. So let's go through some more images. You see, the look of the images is very different depending on my taste. Some images I edited strongly, some images I try to keep the natural look. And let's take a look at some more of the clarity and detail. So here I'm shooting at f2.8 on the RP with face detection, and you see how nicely the eyes are in focus. This is how I take the picture. I have the camera on a tripod, have a remote control here, click the button and the camera takes a picture. This is now at 400%. We can go to 1:1. This is 100%, and you see how sharp the eyes is. And it doesn't really matter that I look into the camera. I mean, even if I look beside the camera, face and eye is in focus, which I think is really beautiful with the technology today, with the eye and face detection. It works so well. I can photograph myself anywhere. I can have sunglasses on. I can look to the side and still know that my eye will be in focus, even at open aperture f2.8, or even when I have sunglasses on. So you can take pictures of people really well. I really like the images that I got with it, and this is just how it looks like. So all in all, I took 11,000 images, 4,500 with a 20mm and 920 we have here in my selection, and I just want to go through some images in detail, some images just quickly, so you get a feeling of what you can get with this lens. And I think this is a lens that not many people talk about. It's a lens that not many people have or use. It's a lens that is pretty old. I think it's from the 90s, so it's around 30 years maximum old, and it was created in a time where there were digital cameras, but it was also created for analog film photography. So a super duper sharpness was not the first priority. I'm shooting here with a 50 megapixel camera, so I have now the high resolution capability, and the question is, of course, can the lens handle that megapixel? So here again, 5DSR, we have 8000, 5400 resolution, which is 50 megapixel. And when I zoom in to 300%, let's just wait until the computer is ready. We still see a lot what's going on here. I mean, I've edited this image pretty hard. You see the colors on the faces are not right, but it is a nice look to the image. And I'm pretty happy. Let me just wrap this up. So I have a wide angle lens, wide angle to super wide angle lens with the 20mm. I have a small lens, lightweight, a nice filter size, actually the same filter size as the 135 f2 lens or the 51.2 lens. So I had one filter, could use it on all these cameras that I had with me here. I can take landscape shots, I can take pictures of myself, I can vlog with it, I can take selfies with it, I can get interesting perspectives of rooms, of landscapes, but also of people. And this is something that I did not really know. Can I use this lens for photographing people, or will the body forms be so out of place when you get closer to it? And in my experience, 20mm, this lens especially worked really well photographing people, and either selfie style like this, or photographing people and still see something in the background. So you want to see the background, but you also want to see the person. It's a great lens to do this. Landscape photography, architecture. So it's a very versatile lens. And I know that you will only experience what you know. So you probably have not heard of this lens, so you were probably not to experience this lens. So I really want to give you many images so you see what you can get with it. So maybe you try it out as well, or other lenses that are not so common. So I've made great experiences with lenses that were not used so often. Like for example the 135mm. The 135mm lens is a lens that always comes with me to weddings. It's a phenomenal portrait lens. You get everything that's far away close to you. It's beautiful for photographing people, and many people usually use 85, and I skipped that and first got 135, and it was a phenomenal experience. What I did now was the same. I chose a aperture, a millimeter focal length, a 20mm. That was not so common. It was not so widely spread, and again I have an incredible experience with it. I would have paid much more for this lens just because it's more lightweight than f2.8. And looking at these images here, this is my first experience with this lens. Most lenses I have for a couple of years. This lens I have now for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm already fascinated by it. I still have to find out which is the best angle, distance, aperture style to use it, but I have here an incredible amount of images that give me beautiful images that I could not have taken with other lenses, like this image with my son. You see him, you see the background, we're in the center of Malaga, and I could have taken this image with a 35mm lens, but it would have looked different. I can take pictures of myself with my girlfriend and my son, and you cannot get 3 people in the frame with 35mm. It just doesn't work this way. You can take group shots. So there is a big variety of things that you can shoot with it. And even though it's not an L lens, so it's not the professional line, and even though it is relatively cheap, I would use this for everything I do. I can see myself bringing this lens to a wedding, photographing, of course, real estate, which I do, buildings, hotels, houses with it, use it for stock photography, vlogging, selfies, taking pictures of myself. And yeah, that was it from Spain. I still have some images here from Hamburg when I tried the Fuji X Pro 3. We can take a look at these images as well. Again, a tripod, Canon RP on the tripod, remote control on it, and this is how I got these images. And I think again, really nice shots here. You have me, you have a little bit of detail in the background, you see where are we, and you get some really nice perspectives like this one. This can be Hamburg, this can be somewhere else, somewhere at the sea. And so I'm pretty happy with this lens, and I wanted to do this review because I know not many people talked about it. So this is what you can get with it, and these are the images that you can get with the Canon EF 20mm f2.8 prime lens. Thank you very much.